So if you just bought your new Herrington Arms HCRXM Compensator, today we're going to show you guys how to install it, uninstall it, and then go over some frequently asked questions about the product. So when you go to install your compensator, it's relatively simple. Herrington Arms has made this easy with the set screw system. We're going to go ahead and make sure the gun is clear and break the gun down like you normally would. Pull the slide off the frame, and then we're going to pull the guide rod out as well because this is a finned compensator, so we need to pull that barrel forward a little bit. One thing that's really important here is to deep clean your barrel threads and these set screws. You can start by wiping this down, and then you're going to want to add a degreaser on here to clean this. Dawn dish soap works great, Simple Green works great. Stuff that's going to deep clean those threads to get all the oil residue off. If you don't know, oil can cause Loctite to not fully cure, and this is definitely going to be a problem if you're going for a permanent solution with this compensator. So the barrel is clean. Now we can clean these set screws with a rag. I have already done this beforehand, so you can just see a very little bit of oil on here. This is probably honestly just residue from the cleaning solution. Now that everything is clean, we can start the install process. One thing you will want to do that was not on here is if there is an O-ring on here, some people provide this if they have a thread protector. Remove that O-ring so that it is just the bare barrel. You don't want to have that O-ring stopping your compensator from going all the way on. Then you would have a gap between the comp and slide, and we don't want that. So starting with this install, we are going to add Loctite. We sell Loctite on the website if you're interested. You want to make sure you use blue 243 Loctite. Do not use red Loctite. I know it's a little confusing with the packaging being red or the containers being red, but make sure that it says thread locker and it has a blue band across here, not a red band. This is really important because red Loctite takes a lot higher of a temperature to break free. It's a more permanent solution, whereas the blue Loctite is a semi-permanent solution. So you can break it loose with heat, which you'll see here in a minute when we try to remove this compensator. I'm going to use my giant jar of Loctite to put this compensator on today. It is the same thing in the bags that we sell though. So we add a dab to the barrel threads. Again, make sure that the set screws are removed from the compensator. You don't want them hitting the shoulder of the barrel, stopping the compensator from threading on all the way. And then we're just going to thread this on until it stops. So you see that's nowhere near perfect. We're gonna back it off, turn, and it's right in place. This compensator has been shot before, so I'm gonna assume that there's carbon on the edge of the barrel and it's not gonna turn past this. You may be able to turn your compensator another revolution past, but you'll see that the barrel hood will not lock into the slide. If that's the case, back it off a turn so that that barrel can fully seat and click into place. You want it to be slightly flush with the top of the slide there. That way you know your barrel's seated. And then you're also going to want to look between the compensator and the slide for an air gap. Hold it up to light, look in between and make sure that you can see light between the comp and slide, especially with the fins. That way you know that the compensator is not going to hit the slide when it recoils. Another thing you can do is put the guide rod in and then push the barrel down, and you can see this is a tilting action, and see if the top of the compensator is going to hit the slide or not. Usually if you can see light between the comp and slide in its rested position, you'll be good, but you want to keep a close eye on this. Make sure your compensator is not hitting your slide. Now we're going to add some Loctite to these set screws. You do not need a whole lot here. Most of it's honestly going to get wiped off, so just add a dab to these set screws. And then we're going to thread it in place. I like to thread until it stops with the long end of the Allen key. That way you don't over tighten it, causing the whole entire compensator to shift. And then we can wipe off the excess. Now let's go to the other set screw. And we'll go ahead and thread this in. Again, use the long end so you don't over tighten. Clean off this excess. Now what I like to do is I like to grab the short end of this Allen key and pinch the base of the compensator. Right here on the recoil assembly housing, you see there's a half moon here. Pinch the compensator and the recoil housing. Loosen up the compensator a little bit so that you can center it so that it is seamless between the comp and the guide rod location. Okay, like that. It is a really seamless fit here. And now we're going to tighten up the set screws, and you're going to want to go back and forth like you're tightening down the lug nuts on a rim, and bounce back and forth. That way the compensator doesn't rotate. What we found is when you place these set screws on either side of the barrel, if you tighten down one first, it will pitch the compensator, and you're just going to be fighting the whole entire time. Do not tighten one set screw all the way at first. So go back and forth until it's tight, and that's it. That's all you need. We recommend using the Allen key provided. That way you don't over tighten this and either round out the Allen key or strip out the set screws. If you want to use a torque wrench, 16 inch-pounds is a good place to start for these 832 set screws. Again, I would just recommend using this wrench. It does not take a lot of force to tighten this down, and you really don't need to go crazy. So now let's throw this slide on this frame here and test this out and make sure it's going to work properly. So what I like to do is I like to hold it up to the light and watch that action and make sure that the tip of the compensator on the edge here is not hitting the slide, especially the fins. Nothing is hitting. I can see light between everything. Everything works good. We can throw in mag, make sure that the gun is working properly, and it is. You're gonna wanna pull the trigger, make sure that this gun is functioning, that the barrel is seating all the way. And if you are having an issue, back the compensator off a turn. It might be too tight up against that slide. So I would consider this a successful install of this compensator. Now let's take a look at removing this compensator and then everything that kind of comes with that. So to uninstall this product, it's very simple. We're gonna make sure the gun is clear. It is. And then we're gonna take the slide off the frame. With a finned compensator, you do have to remove the guide rod, otherwise the fins would hit the slide. And then we're going to take these set screws all the way out. If these set screws are really Loctited in place, you can add a little bit of heat to the barrel by pulling this forward, heating up this barrel. It's going to liquefy the Loctite, making it a lot easier to get these out. Now that the set screws are out, we can go ahead and remove this compensator. Again, if it's really on there, add some heat here with a lighter or a torch. I recommend a lighter, that way you don't overdo it. It does not take a whole lot of heat. With a hand lighter, you know, maybe 60 seconds of heat, you can usually break that Loctite up pretty good. And then I like to use a rag or something to protect my hand, a glove, because these fins are sharp enough they can cut you. So now we can grab that compensator, twist, and there was not a lot of Loctite on here, so this one's coming off pretty easy. And that is it. I mean, it does not take a whole lot to remove these compensators. We recommend that you do add Loctite, so sometimes heat is necessary, and sometimes you could just use enough force with a rag to get this to come off, and it's not gonna be that big of a deal. So this is how you successfully uninstall your compensator. Some things to keep in mind is if you've done this a few times, maybe look at ordering some new set screws from Herrington Arms. This is gonna allow those set screws to stay fresh and not deform on the nose. If they do deform on the nose of the set screw, they can then back off if you try to install it later without Loctite, or if you don't add enough Loctite, they could back off. So if this is your 4th or 5th time removing this compensator, I would look at getting some new set screws. One thing to keep in mind before you reinstall this compensator as well is to really make sure these threads are clean. You're gonna wanna deep clean these with a degreaser and some sort of brush to get all that Loctite off of the threads on the barrel and in the compensator and on the set screws. Taking a look at some of the frequently asked questions we get for our compensators, including the RXM compensator. First one is going to be, is this going to make my gun unreliable? And the answer is no. We've done so much testing with different kinds of ammo, different grains, different brands, really polishing the product, removing material, increasing or decreasing port sizing to get this compensator to be reliable on the Ruger RXM and really any of our compensators that we've made to date. Question number 2, what firearm will this compensator work on? One thing you're gonna wanna keep in mind here is this is a finned compensator, so it is only going to work on the Ruger RXM. Do not put this HCRXM compensator on any Glock clone or even an OEM Glock. This is only gonna work with the RXM. So question number 3, what is the holster compatibility with this compensator on the RXM? The RXM is a rather new setup. Most people are running Glock holsters, but one thing to keep in mind is this is a seamless compensator. It is going to be the exact same profile as the slide of the handgun. So as long as you have an open front holster, the comp will slide right out the front. And if you have a closed front holster, you will need to modify it so that the comp can protrude out the end of the holster and you're not going to have the gun not fully seated. Question number 5, what barrel can I run in my Ruger RXM to work with this compensator? That's pretty simple. You can use any Glock barrel. We are using a True Precision Glock 19 barrel in here. So as long as this is a barrel for a Glock, you're not gonna have any issues. We really recommend True Precision. They make great stuff and we've had 0 reliability issues. However, if you're looking at the new Ruger RXM that comes with a threaded barrel, we found that it has spotty QC. So if you take a look at the new RXM barrel and you throw a micrometer on here, you can see the major diameter is actually 2.5 thou undersized, which tells me that the actual minor diameter or the V of the thread is the problem. If I had to guess, their threading tool has some taper to it. It's pushing off as it's going down the thread, which makes sense why the go gauge goes halfway on and the compensator goes halfway on and stops. Unfortunately, this seems to be the case with their quality control. We've seen this with PSA as well with their budget barrels. And to kind of give you guys a reference point, this is a brand new compensator right off the machine. We tap these to a GH6 oversized thread. And the reason we do this is to make room for anodizing or Cerakote coating and to allow for some fluctuations in quality control from the barrel suppliers. A GH6 is incredibly oversized. And you can see that this barrel has absolutely no play in here. So these threads are incredibly tight. from factory. And this may cause issues with other compensators or suppressors. The reason that we know there is some QC issues with these barrels is because this is a precision go gauge, and you can see it stops about halfway down the barrel, which is about the same place that the compensator stops. We've seen people have success with this, and we've seen people have issues with this. So keep that in mind if you're buying this setup. That's why we recommend True Precision. We have no issues with their quality, and you get a premium barrel. If you guys like this video, we'd appreciate it. Like and subscribe. If you guys are interested in this kind of content, please go check out the main channel where we do a lot more stuff. We'll see you guys next time.